My next guest is a senior member of the House Armed Services Committee and just got back from a bipartisan visit to Ukraine and neighboring countries. Democratic Congressman from California, John Garamendi, joins me now. Congressman, it is so good to see you. Thanks for being with us. So just walk us through your trip, what you saw during your time in Ukraine.
Well, the trip was specifically put together by Chairman Rogers. What he wanted to do was to determine if the American equipment and NATO equipment is actually getting to the right place. Is it transiting from the United States into Europe all the way to Poland and then on to Ukraine in the front line? So that was our mission. We were in Greece, where about 10% of the equipment flows. Romania, were another 10%, and also working with the 101st Airborne Division that is centered in that country. In Poland, 80% of that equipment flows through there. Some of it is the big cannons and vehicles. A lot of it are the munitions. When we were there, there was about 100 yards of munitions, 155 shells, and other ammunition, rockets and the like, all of it lined up, quickly being loaded into the various vehicles that take it into Ukraine and then onto the front line. Bottom line, we went through all of it. It is being carefully monitored, and we came away satisfied that things are not being diverted and that the equipment's flowing through.
Well, that's certainly good to hear, Congressman. And we know that President Biden is planning a trip to Poland next week to mark the anniversary of the war. What do you want to hear from him? What would you tell the president about your recent trip there?
Well, the countries of Eastern Europe recognize exactly what Putin's up to, and we should also. Prior to this war beginning, there were negotiations between NATO and Putin. Putin came in with a demand, and basically the demand was that NATO leave the Eastern European countries, from Estonia all the way down to Poland and Bulgaria and in between. Basically, Putin was determined to reestablish the Warsaw Pact. That is, Russia dominating all of those countries. Those countries want no part of that. And the president has done a terrific job rallying NATO. NATO was on its back during the Trump administration, but Biden was able to rally it. The European Union, they're all in. Biden is going to, I'm sure, repeat what he said at the State of the Union, and that is, the United States is committed to this war until it is over on terms that are satisfactory to Ukraine. And we need to follow up on that. The American public needs to understand what is at risk here. What is at risk if we pull out is the collapse of NATO on the eastern flank and Russia moving right back to where it was in the early 1990s. And China's watching. If the United States doesn't stand firm in Europe, China will know that the United States will not stand firm in the Western Pacific. And that opens up to extraordinary security risks, not only for the United States, but also for countries in Europe, as well as for the Western Pacific.
Congressman, there's this new poll from the Associated Press that shows Americans are divided on sending more aid to Ukraine. 37% are in favor, 38% opposed, 23% say they have no opinion. Some of your Republican colleagues have balked at sending more aid to Ukraine. What about the lawmakers you traveled with? Do they support more aid? And if so, how do they convince the rest of their caucus?
Well, certainly the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, Mike Rogers, a Republican from Alabama, he's all in. He went out there to make sure that the equipment was actually being delivered, was not being diverted. We came away satisfied that that was indeed the case. Right there, that's a picture of the Greek ambassador, American ambassador to Greek, and the head of the Greek military. They are well aware that this is an existential issue for them, that if we fail, then we're going to see a collapse of NATO and, once again, the ability of Russia to extend itself into Eastern Europe. Now, I believe that our trip will be helpful in satisfying those Republicans and even some Democrats that are concerned about this, that the equipment that we are providing, and it is expensive. We've about $18.5 billion of equipment thus far, and authority for the president to send more if need be. And the need will be there. So we want to make sure it's done properly, that the proper equipment is going in. Keep in mind that the United States is now committed to send approximately 50 Abrams tanks, the most advanced tank in the world, and the European countries, NATO countries, will send a couple of hundred of additional Leopard tanks and French tanks to the front line for the spring offensive that the Ukraine military intends to do. Right now, they are holding the line as Russia engages in its early spring offensive, mostly in the town of Bakhmut. That line is being held without tanks, being held with ammunition that we saw on the tarmac in Poland just 5 days ago. Those armaments, that is probably now on the front line being used by the Ukrainian army.
Today we heard from the French President, Emmanuel Macron, who said there can be no peace until Russia is defeated, adding that it is important to support a counter-offensive. For the most part, the U.S. has stressed Ukraine's ability to defend itself, not necessarily to go on the offensive. Do you think that's the right call?
Macron is absolutely correct. We have to win this war. This is not just about Eastern Europe. This is about China and China's aggressive activities in the Western Pacific. So we have to win it. And France and the United States and the NATO countries are all in. I met recently, just a week ago, with the leader of the Ukraine program in Washington, D.C., and he was very, very clear that the NATO countries are unified. Also, keep in mind that with Russia's aggression in Ukraine, two neutral countries, Sweden and Finland, took a look at what Russia was doing. They said, uh-oh, we want to be part of NATO. And that is going to happen. Turkey is holding out right now for some concessions, but we will see Sweden and Finland joining NATO this year in 2023. And that will provide additional assurance that we will stand firm with Ukraine, all of the NATO countries. Macron's right. The president has been right. Right now, Vice President Harris is in Europe with the same message, that the United States is all in. Now, this is a dramatic change from where former President Trump left NATO. He left NATO in a disarray. NATO was, in his view, unnecessary and a waste of money. So here we are, unified. We're all in to support Ukraine.
California Congressman John Garamendi, thanks for your time today. We appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.